Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Whole Magazine, episode 50. I am joined by Isaac. Hello. Got you for 2 episodes in a row. I feel greedy.
Well, you had me for like all of the episodes in a row for a while.
Yeah. For the last like 6 or so, we've missed you. But
Yeah.
you're back because things have settled down, and I'm joined by Oscar, who is
Hello.
likely going to be very loud, and I will not be able to use much of his audio because he peaks his microphone, thus rendering his audio completely useless.
I do need to buy a new mic as soon as
It's not
possible.
about the new mic. It's about the fact that we could say anything and you scream "Ayo" and
Yeah.
then peek out your mic for the next 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking
I
about.
have no idea. No idea, man. No idea. We are busy. We were busy before we get to the. It's not a very long episode, but it's definitely going to be lengthy because we're going to have a lot of talking points, a lot of things to talk about. I added some things that I knew Oscar would be really keen to talk about. This is a very much a Oscar episode because
Cool. I didn't read the cut sheet.
he is very, how would one say, maybe passionate, if not. We'll just stick with passionate. Passionate sounds
Let's go with
nicer.
that. Let's go with that. I'm sure the rest of the country could agree with me.
Before we get to that, we are going to get some rehashing of the news here. There was some updates that we got. We have a little bit more information on those shootings, those attacks. We have the New Orleans Bourbon Street attack, as well as the Cybertruck in front of a Trump hotel in Las Vegas. We're going to go dive into that. There was some details that sort of popped up, which were somewhat alarming. It's not necessarily that nothing's crazy, but the information that's available, I'm not suggesting any sort of ulterior motives or weirder things, just the information we have is simple. Before we dive into that, though, we have some videos that popped up during New Year's celebrations, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that now. Because as you can imagine, there's going to be stupid shit that happened on New Year's Eve. So let's just take a peek. What's available to us from X? Wonderful
Now,
stuff,
Walker,
that is.
I am not a gun
Apparently,
freak, as you're aware. Is that actually dangerous to anyone else? I don't know how
So
bullets work in
you
that
could
sense.
make the argument that if they had fired straight up in the air, it's not dangerous to anyone else. But that's like shooting an artillery cannon. It's still going to stabilize and have energy when it comes down. So yes, it's very dangerous. Like I want to say that shooting a gun in the air at any point in time is dangerous. But they did it in possibly the most dangerous way to do a dangerous activity.
Saw how that guy was holding that.
If you see like the houses or whatever in the distance,
Yeah.
I think you can see, because I've seen the video before.
Did you see how that individual was holding the gun? Did you
Well,
see that?
Yeah.
Anything.
Like he
Yeah,
had
it's
it like
dangerous.
this. The butt's not even on his shoulders, and he's just letting it sing, and it's not even straight up. It's like at a 45, I would argue.
Yeah.
He's that's
Going for
crazy.
maximum damage at
I'm so
ballistic
glad.
maximum.
I'm so glad that Oscar sort of asked, is it dangerous? It is. Here you are. This is for the aftermath of what it looks like when a bullet falls back down from a high ballistic arc. It doesn't necessarily... It went into his head a bit, sort of
Yeah.
squashed on his head. But
I mean,
it could also be a lot more dangerous
that's
than
what
that.
I would expect from shooting like directly up in the air. If
Yeah.
you're shooting at like a 45-degree angle like those people are, you might literally just kill whoever's at the end of that ballistic arc.
These are just some of the things that we had to get to. Naturally, it seems like every year some stupid thing's going to happen. This was no exception.
That's the reason that those type of individuals should not possess firearms. I don't know how they. That's obviously in Texas, right? And Texas is
Yeah, that was apparently Houston.
pretty lenient for gun laws and stuff.
Well, they're not lenient, actually. These are people who don't give a fuck about the law and are just doing shit. Like, everything they did was illegal.
It was, I'm pretty sure, an illegally modified fully automatic firearm.
There's that as well.
It was probably also an SBR without a tax stamp.
I don't know what that is, man.
It's nothing about that video was good. It's in fact just evidence that's likely been posted online. The courts typically like it when you do that sort of thing. Moving on. Updates on the Cybertruck incident in front of a Trump hotel. Actually, what we failed to mention actually is the same day, I believe hours before, there was the New Orleans attack on Bourbon Street.
I think we might have mentioned that's why some people thought it was connected, although we know for certain now that it probably isn't.
Yeah, it probably isn't connected, but the New Orleans attack on Bourbon Street, a man by the name of Shamsuddin Jabbar drove a truck down Bourbon Street in New Orleans, killing 14 people and injuring dozens of others. The FBI remarked by saying there isn't any evidence that this was a terrorist attack, which is incredibly interesting because there is.
I think the FBI has since come back and said that, all right, you got us. There was a terror attack.
I really hope so. I really hope they did.
The New York FBI absolutely sort of are. I don't know what's about.
Well, maybe they thought it wasn't a terrorist attack because they didn't plan this one. To fuel all the conspiracy theories out there.
Chief of police or something, chief FBI or whatever for the area, she had no idea what was going on.
Well,
she didn't know that they had
to be fired. Remember that the FBI is part of the executive branch of government. Yeah. So whatever the current administration feels the message should be is what she's going to say.
We just got to count down.
She's not the actual investigators who are putting together, the case and the information. She's basically sitting there to give a PR speech that has been approved, with the Kamala Harris and Biden stamp of approval.
She is useless as well, because in another video she didn't even know that they had these sort of barriers to put up. But
you're talking about the chief of police, right? The white woman?
That's an entire thing. I don't know if she's director of FBI or whatever, but she's also just useless.
She's just that's probably interjected into the podium.
New Orleans.
Yeah, she just interjected.
So yeah, that's the FBI saying that it's not a terrorist thing, but like Isaac said, now they had to backtrack everything. They just like proving that everyone's assumptions about government organizations is that they should not be trusted because they just lie to you at every possible
the FBI's normal response is, "Oh yeah, this guy was on our radar."
We've been watching him for a long time.
So for the similarities actually between the New Orleans and Cybertruck bomb,
both Army
more or less
Army
just
veterans.
Yep. So found with a gunshot wound to their head. Both men were found with a gunshot wound to their head. Both are from Fort Bragg. Mm-hmm. They rented from Turo. Both of them were using rented vehicles.
The guy in the guy at the Las Vegas Trump Tower thing, I thought he was stationed at Colorado currently.
He came back from leave. He came back from leave from Germany and went to Colorado Springs to grab the rental truck and then drove that to Las Vegas, where he did what he did.
I don't know if he's stationed at Bragg anymore, but the similarities Brandon is trying to state is that both were stationed at Bragg around the same time.
I think Bragg is like the center of Army Special Operations
So the Cybertruck gentleman was a Green Beret, supposedly a high explosive specialist. What looked to be fireworks, but then again, we don't really
see if you can pull up one of the articles that are talking about the letter that was found. It seems like it was a suicide that
you
was
all are
meant
able
to be.
Screen share as well at the bottom.
I'm not going to do that.
Interesting. Very powerful.
I would like to, but I wouldn't even know where to find that letter.
Articles on it earlier, and there was ideas that he had apparently had some sort of suicide letter, and he said the American people only pay attention to spectacle and violence. So it seems like he was trying to kill himself and then make a scene for some sort of political reason.
I mean, obviously he blew up a Cybertruck in front of
that makes more sense than a terror attack, because we're like, Green Beret can't come up with a better bomb than
right?
A bunch of fireworks in the back of a metal truck. Like
he built a bomb. I mean, at the end of the day,
he didn't.
It was a bomb.
Dude, okay. In the loosest of definitions possible, Oscar, short, he made a bomb.
Yeah.
By bomb, he duct taped a bunch of fireworks together and set the whole thing on fire.
I would even argue that it's more of an incendiary device. It's not even a bomb.
The pressure expansion wasn't that great. And it's funny because I'm seeing a lot online. They're funny, like Cybertruck rated the worst truck in America, rated by the National Terrorist Organization or something like that.
Okay.
And it's giving the Cybertruck this massive appeal right now because it held together an explosion. But everyone who's kind of aware of such things, it wasn't an explosion. That was crazy enough. It was a bunch of fireworks. They're so obviously fireworks.
Anything. A fucking
truck. Truck exploded.
2002 Dodge Grand Caravan would withstand
Do a
it pretty
similar
much
thing.
the same.
Okay, man. At the end of the day, it was definitely meant to send a message. I don't know if the message got across.
It's very telling that it didn't even have enough explosive force to break the glass on the front of the tower, and he did that on purpose. I don't think he actually wanted to hurt anyone.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to
just
hurt
wanted
anybody.
He's like, well, I want to make sure that my wife finds out about this on the news.
Yeah,
Why do it
kind
in
of
a
rough.
Cybertruck though in front of Trump Tower?
I'd say probably a
Maybe
statement.
because he doesn't like Musk or Trump or both.
Mm-hmm.
When you said deeper meaning, I thought you would be the one to find that deeper meaning, Oscar.
Wow, no shit. That's kind of what I was going for.
Why don't you say it?
Because Walker is so transfixed on the concept that this bomb is not to his liking. That this
Well, yeah, I
bomb
mean that's
is a
it's a
shit
great
bomb.
point, which
Bad
is probably it's a great point, which is
Possibly
likely, which is
America's worst
pointing.
suicide bomber.
It's a great point, which is what's leading Isaac to the conclusion that he probably didn't want to hurt anybody, actually.
Okay, as long
Which
as
is
that's the
counter
conclusion
because
he's
it was so
reaching.
shit. Either it's incompetency or it was planned that way.
Do you want
Okay.
a quotable moment here? I came
I
up with
would
a joke
not like
earlier.
a quotable moment. I would not actually.
I am going to mark this clip.
Okay, quote. Do it.
Stop yelling so we don't get drowned out. But anyway, God saves his fattest virgins for his worst suicide bombers.
Continue.
Let's go on.
Proceed with the episode.
I should have said Allah instead of God. You know what I meant.
In the similar vein of people wanting to make a martyr of themselves, not quite in the way because these guys kind of killed themselves, but Luigi Mangione. It's time that the whole magazine talks about him on the show.
Well,
I've been waiting for this.
can't wait to rehash our Discord conversations.
It's
For a
going to
long
be
time.
powerful because what Oscar doesn't know is Brandon did his homework.
This is gonna be bad. Actually,
And
this
he
is
has
gonna
an
be powerful. This is
entire
gonna be
other Word
horrible.
document for the notes.
This is
Do
gonna
you
be
think
so
that
bad.
Oscar cares about the actual facts or about his opinions?
No, I think it's going to be a great demonstration to the audience, the difference between actually looking at something analytically and then just looking at it from
I think
your
at the end of the
heart.
day, I'll be coming at this thing completely based off philosophy and principles, right? You can come in with your facts. It's
That's
gonna
a funny
hurt.
way of saying
gonna hurt.
feelings.
It's gonna hurt when you come at me with your facts. And like
How many
always, I will
philosophers have you
do
read?
my very best to listen and
That's
agree
a great
with some of the
question,
things
Isaac.
you sent with.
How many
How many
philosophers
have you read?
You know, Aristotle.
Yeah, name one.
Aristotle.
Good. He
Archimedes.
remembers like third through
have you read?
sixth
Archimedes
grade.
was a mathematician.
Yeah,
Was
philosopher.
it? And
Kind of like the same.
more
to be
like
fair,
the modern scientist,
most old
more
century
equivalent actually.
mathematicians, and I would say astronomists, right?
Old
Astronomists.
century? Say
Yeah,
what is an old century?
Are you trying to get me to like say the wrong century
You already
Galilei
did.
was in?
What's old
Look,
century?
my point is, philosophy is subjective, right? Everyone has their own ideas of morals and principles and their own ideas of philosophies. And like, honestly, and this is gonna sound very fucking corny, but most people can base their personalities and philosophies from just reading books, watching movies, even TV shows, even though these are probably portrayed by actors who are scumbags, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But that's true, because when you're
I strive to base my philosophy off of Tony Soprano.
It's great because what
That's
you're
actually
basically
not a
just
bad
telling
one.
everyone is that it's subjective and inconclusive mostly.
That's
Because
true.
everyone can just make it up as they go.
Well, no, because I mean, at the end of the day, there is blatant right and wrongs. You can't just like kill somebody and say, but Kratos would do it. What?
But Kratos would do it.
Trust,
fam.
There's people like that. Swear to God.
So what do we know about this Luigi Mangione? So he's relatively young.
Yeah.
He attended a private school before graduating from an Ivy League college. He has an engineering degree, which he said so in his manifesto. Almost like a poem there. Of course, he's accused of the murder of United Healthcare's chief executive, Brian Thompson. He pled not guilty, and he's actually spawned a documentary from the New York Post.
Already?
Do have to wonder why, if he had the manifesto admitting to it, he would also plead not guilty.
It's incredible.
That's
It
true.
makes
I
zero
really
sense.
wish that New York State would televise this court case.
Is it not televised?
Almost no court cases are televised. In fact, that's like an extreme minority of court cases are televised.
I would say
Especially in criminal court. Criminal court,
I
it's
would've
very rare
imagined-
to have a televised criminal court.
I would have imagined more people would learn from this Depp Heard case that sometimes televising these cases isn't necessarily bad for the public.
It's also, it can be bad. Look at the Kyle Rittenhouse case. It really freaked out the judge to the point where he wasn't sure that televising the case was a good idea anymore because of the amount of people trying to like follow jurors home.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that they don't understand, they're immediately calling for like judicial bias.
Okay,
Like,
so would it
like
be
the
fair
reason
to
why
say
he yelled at being the prosecutor, people didn't understand. They thought it was judicial bias and that he's just there to get Kyle Rittenhouse off, where the prosecutor was violating Kyle Rittenhouse's constitutional rights.
Yeah.
Right. But we don't want to delve into that topic.
It's all
that's
messy.
One we could all
it's
agree
all
on.
messy. But it's a great point. Some of these things, it'd be great if there was some sort of form of petition that one could submit to have it be televised, instead of having to wait ex post facto for things.
I mean, I want to agree with Walker. I feel like it's a good thing this thing's not televised because you definitely.
Well, I didn't say that it's a good thing it wasn't televised. I just said that there's reasons why people don't like it. There's reasons why they won't televise things, and there's reasons why they will. On one hand, high-profile cases like this are very important for people to watch, so they can see whether or not, the court, like literally from the comfort of your own home, you can see what goes on in the court, and you get insight into how the court works. You can visibly watch in real time the society get its restitution from the offender. There's any number of reasons you can get into as to why you might want to televise it, but there's also a very good argument on the other side as to why you wouldn't want to televise it.
I mean, I'd be worried about the safety of the prosecution and the jurors.
Look at something as high profile and controversial as like the Derek Chauvin trial for the murder of George Floyd, where people were trying to follow home the jurors.
So we have the charge
counts.
Issues. The charge counts. What has he actually been charged with? This is going to be interesting. So he has been charged with murder in the second degree, 2 counts of criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, criminal possession of a forged instrument in the second degree, and criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree. So the murder in the second degree applies when a person has the intent to cause death of another person and causes the death of such a person or a third person. That comes with a max penalty of life in prison without parole. Criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree is when a person possesses a loaded firearm, machine gun, or disguised gun with the intent to use the firearm unlawfully against another. That comes with a maximum of 15 years in prison. I believe that's minimum, correction.
I'm not a lawyer, but I do think it's interesting that they tried to get him with second-degree murder and not first-degree premeditated murder, because layman's terms, it seems like this is a premeditated act. He meant to follow him and kill him and lie in wait to kill him. Yeah. He wrote a manifesto. Like, what's not premeditated about this? Why is this not first-degree homicide?
Exactly. So that's a phenomenal point, Isaac.
Why do you think that is?
So here's an example, Oscar. So let's say that I'm driving a vehicle. You're a key witness, and I see some people on the side of the road, right? Happenstantially driving by at the time. I see these people. I intentionally drive up onto the sidewalk and kill 4 people with my vehicle. Mm-hmm. Sure, that's like vehicular manslaughter, etc. But it could be charged as murder in the second degree because I would show the intent to have caused the death of these people by driving on the sidewalk, but it wouldn't be first degree because it wasn't premeditated enough. I didn't track these people down. I didn't know their schedule. I didn't follow them for a time and then decide. So that is why this charge is extremely weird. For it being the kind of case that it is, what Mangione has already confessed to have been doing, because in his manifesto, he mentioned that this took social engineering. So there's your first kind of instinct that's kind of a little bit premeditated there. That kind of takes some effort. If he had to figure out
where this guy was, that he would be walking alone, lying in wait, make an illegal suppressor or acquire an illegal suppressor, write a manifesto.
It's honestly bullshit that New York is not charging this man with first degree.
So
what is the only difference between first degree murder and second degree murder, by the way, is the death penalty. But it's New York. They're not killing anybody. So for all intents and purposes, if he is guilty, he's getting life imprisonment.
Okay.
So I won't say too much for like personal security reasons, but I do personally know someone who would be considered an expert on the way that criminal proceedings take place. So I might be able to ask their opinion next time I see them as to why they might try to stick him with a lesser charge.
That'd be
But
great.
it might be, just looking at it from a common sense perspective, if they don't believe that they can get first degree premeditated murder and it's easier to get second degree
Which
murder,
is crazy, honestly.
I mean, I
then
just find it to be weird. I mean,
because
this is a
it
man.
could be like a slam dunk. All you have to do is prove that he saw him and shot him versus proving that he had planned to track him down and kill him.
I think his manifesto is a key piece of evidence here.
It's possible that they're not as confident in the criminal proceedings because it comes from the district attorney's office.
It is New Mexico. It is New Mexico. It is
New
New
York.
York. So that's a big. The juries there are as liberal as they come.
The case is in Albuquerque.
I'm sure that basically what's going to happen is at the end of the trial, when the judge writes out the jury instructions, they tell you this is what this charge means, and you should only find them guilty if it meets these criteria, otherwise find them not guilty. So if you can prove that he killed him with malicious intent, that's way easier to do than proving that he had sat there, lied in wait, and done all these other things. But if he is the guy, like he has this manifesto and made a suppressor and did all these other things that they're saying he did, then it would seem like a slam dunk case anyway.
And remember, this is in contrary to civil litigation, which is more likely than not, whereas criminal proceedings are beyond a reasonable doubt. So that is unanimous decision amongst a jury. You know, the level of actual, I guess, the rigor of the trial and jury decision is a lot higher in this case than would otherwise be ready. And I do think it's interesting too. I would like to hear some sort of DA's sort of take on it as to like why these charges, when it's so clearly a more severe charge, you know, what is your game plan here? Is there some sort of extra sort of strategy that is maybe going on, or it's just a DA in New York, so they're going to hand him the lowest ball that they possibly can without obviously looking so incredibly corrupt? You know, that's a bunch of questions like that. He is also charged for the criminal possession of a forged instrument in the second degree. So based on the possession of his alleged fake ID, law prohibits people from possessing a written instrument which has been falsely made, completed, or altered with knowledge that it is forged and with the intent to defraud, deceive, or injure another. That comes with a minimum sentence of 7 years in prison. And his last charges: criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree applies in such cases such as bomb possession, machine guns, or firearms after being convicted of a felony, but likely applies to Mangione with his possession of a suppressor. So those are his charges.
So they didn't actually get him with terror charges?
It does not seem terror charges are sticking, and I'm not too sure if that is a charge one necessarily sees in federal court. I'm not entirely sure. Because that would be my only question there. Is
well, I guess it would
say,
depend on whether or not it's a violation of New York statute, and then he may have to face New York. He may get charged in both federal and state court.
I better not see a terror charge. That's all I'm saying.
Well, when it literally fits the statute for terrorism
of the law, he absolutely should.
So I will tell you this: it is the smallest and smoothest brain take that because he only killed one person, it shouldn't be labeled as terrorism. Now, you can disagree with the definition of terrorism that we have in this country, and that would be a better argument, maybe. Although I would also still disagree with you.
Fuck you.
The fact of the matter is, if he killed someone trying to enact political change, it fits the textbook definition in the statutes for terrorism. Any sort of political killing counts as terrorism.
Don't see anything terroristic about that. When I see terrorism, I think of the New Orleans incident. That's what I think.
Okay, that's also terrorism.
Yeah.
But you know what else is also terrorism?
Another man.
But it seems like because your biases are clouding your better judgment, because you think somebody driving a truck through a crowd of people is obvious terrorism, but because someone is doing something that you actually agree with, it's no longer terrorism, is effectively what you just demonstrated.
One of the needed things I saw was the guy who ran over those people in New Orleans. He had a brother who also believes in the Islamic faith, and he responded and to, everything that was kind of occurring. And he stated that what his brother did does not represent the Islamic faith.
And he's a liar.
Sure, whatever you want to believe, right? But my point is,
it's in their
we
book.
have an individual who committed a heinous act with political and religious intentions, and he, sported himself an ISIS flag. He was prior military.
I think the only thing that we have suggestion of, like this is being entirely honest, the only thing that we have that is suggestive of terrorist intent was the presence of an ISIS flag. I don't believe we have a manifesto from New Orleans.
Driving over 15 people
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, if
is going to be used to incite terror on the population anyway.
Comparatively, between, like, say, Mangione's case, where it is cut and clear that his intentions were politically charged, at face value, Mangione the terrorist charge really does fit and is super easy to apply.
Are you familiar with the Beltway snipers, Oscar?
No, it sure sounds familiar.
Okay. Well, never mind then.
Well, no, elaborate.
Well, I had a whole line of questioning, but now it doesn't matter because you don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, if you told me who the Beltway snipers were, I'd probably, oh my god, I remember. Oh my god.
If I say DC sniper, does that make it better?
A little bit. A smidge.
Okay. All right, never mind then. We'll continue on.
We'll continue on since he doesn't want to enlighten.
The whole reason that Mangione did what he did was, of course, because of his ideas and beliefs on the American healthcare system, whereby insurance companies are these parasites that just reap all of the benefit and all the reward while people suffer. This is, as we might have discussed kind of tiny amounts on the show before, in my opinion, is largely bullshit. The blame is not on insurance companies at all. It is actually primarily hospitals. We want to talk about the people who are the main driving forces of the quote unquote healthcare economy. It's hospitals. I work with insurances almost daily. I know exactly what happens with insurance.
It's auto insurance.
Insurances are very similar. And you know what's happening now is the moment that you own a more expensive vehicle, like a new model year car, your insurance rates are going to go up because now your repairs for your vehicle are just going to cost more because they're all fancy and electronic. Thus, people don't start ranting and raving. Well, they do, but it's nowhere near worth killing a CEO over your auto
insurance is also generally just better because you pay them money, and then if you get into a car accident, they actually do their job.
Depending on your coverage, if you have a liability insurance, you are just going to be like, let's say if it's
your fault, it's the other guy, their insurance. If you're not at fault, the other guy's insurance will pay you.
Correct. But if you're not, or if you are, then your insurance is going to leave you hanging out to dry.
They're going to be like, yeah, we're not going to cover you anymore.
Same vein, if your auto insurance, like let's say you get too many rock chips or you have to get too many windshields or pieces of glass replaced, your auto insurance is just going to drop you if they don't just raise your rates. Insurances have quote unquote problems all the time.
Yeah.
But
if they drop you, it really is your fault because you screwed up. That's why they're dropping you.
If we have a system though, like the hospital system, where they can charge literally anything they fucking want, there's no real legislation that tells them what they can and cannot charge, which is a problem. And that's actually my first prescription to helping the United States healthcare system, which I have
price controls.
I have a whole thing for hospitals, and this is only true. I'm not very big government, but for a system that is able to just arbitrarily set prices to whatever they want when there are an essential service, you're not necessarily browsing around for better hospitals when there's an emergency. Like, oh shit, let me pull out my phone and compare prices while there's something going on that I definitely need to get done right away.
You can't do that. Almost making an argument for government-owned.
Well, those already are a thing.
True. Well, I'm not sure that they aren't a thing, but I will say that most hospitals in the United States are for-profit corporations.
Correct.
Not owned by the government.
Yep.
Sure.
So there's non-for-profit, there's profit, and there's government hospitals all over the United States. We have some, I think 2,000 some clinics or hospitals in the United States. It's actually the largest network in the world. The argument, though, that insurance companies are the ones that are setting these prices and they're the reason why healthcare gets so high. Well, no, insurance companies are reactionary to how much healthcare costs, which is dictated by hospitals and other regulatory bodies outside of health insurance. There are many online tools, and it's also the dismissal of public responsibility too. It's like you have to sign a contract, you have to sign something to acknowledge all the things that this health insurance company is going to do for you in exchange for your money. If you have comprehensive comprehensive and you're paying for comprehensive, you get comprehensive healthcare. You just get it, right? Because you signed on to a contract that they're going to cover anything that might possibly happen to you. If you get into a car accident and you're paying for comprehensive coverage and you have to have a massive spine surgery, they're going to have to begrudgingly likely have to dish out $500,000 so that way you can get your back fixed. It's all about, like, for most people in the United States, if they even are bothered to carry auto insurance, only get liability insurance because it's usually the cheapest. It's usually the cheapest, and it makes you in good shape with the law. Whereas most people,
realistically, if you know that you're not going to get into an accident that's your fault,
correct.
you
And
wouldn't need any other sort of insurance.
Here's my other thing: is the healthcare coverage company is banking on the fact that you're likely not going to get sick or not need their help with anything. That's their whole business model, right? If you are young and fit, X, Y, and Z, they have you, right? Good. You are a prime candidate. You're a prime customer. Okay. What I think should also be adjusted in this country is we should remove, which feels kind of like lobbyist kind of bullshit. We should remove the legal liability to carry health and auto insurance and go back to good old fashioned responsibility. Actually, I don't think so much as auto insurance, because you can do some stupid shit with your vehicle or have somebody do stupid shit with their vehicle to you, and somebody needs to pay for that shit. Whereas if you have somebody who, I mean, we're already experiencing this. If somebody doesn't have auto insurance, you're fucked.
In that way, you can always look at the fact that you can always take someone to court.
This is true.
Just may not be able to get
and
restitution from them.
You can garnish their wages, et cetera, et cetera. But for the idea that people are, I mean, I'm seeing this all the time now on social media, and the biggest problem is people just don't know how the healthcare system works. This woman said that her health insurance just dropped her. Guess what you have to do every year? Renew your insurance policy.
There's definitely people out there who are just not doing the system the way that the system is, like, obviously designed to work. There's also a lot of people who have legitimate gripes with the system. And despite any logical arguments that you can make, there's a huge sentiment in the United States that healthcare companies or healthcare insurance companies do have issues. People are not happy with the quality of service that they're paying for.
Sure. I don't think it's the quality of service that they're paying for, because you're getting the actual service from the hospital. America is leading in all fronts of medical ability.
Sure. The doctors can be good at their job, but if you have to pay out of pocket for things that the doctors are doing, then you're not getting the quality of service from the insurance company that you are paying every month to provide money for healthcare. Not necessarily provide healthcare, but money for healthcare.
In devil's advocate sense, right? I agree with Walker, obviously, but in this sense of what Brandon was stating, how hospital costs have more to do with the hospital, right? So whenever you are trying to take out a health insurance claim to cover, surgeries or X, Y, and Z, the hospital could also add other fees too, shit that, most of the time we don't even see unless we ask for, from what I understand. And the insurance company they don't pay for that. They only cover the actual costs necessary.
Actually, there is also.
So when you request an itemized bill, and let's say after your hospital visit and there's a massive charge, request an itemized bill, and if there are any out-of-network charges for that, you legally are not obligated to pay those. That came after the No Surprise Act of 2022. So even still, when a hospital tries to charge you something that's out of network, i.e. your insurance doesn't cover it, that's not allowed. So there are new protections now as of 2022, where if a hospital tries to charge you for shit that's out of network and they know you have insurance, they have to take it off. They cannot charge you for that.
I also argue.
Well, they'll probably tell you that it is out of network and ask you to sign a waiver saying that you're willing to pay for whatever life-saving care you're getting.
Again, that sounds like a personal responsibility problem where people aren't reading the shit that they signed.
Exactly.
It just seems like it's not so much that you won't have to pay for it, it's that they're not allowed to surprise you with it.
And this is my other argument, which even if I say it, it's probably never going to sound like a fucking argument, because then people are just going to be like,
and no, it goes beyond not quote unquote surprising them. They literally cannot charge you for it.
So when you
cannot be charged for that shit.
When Walker was talking about how a system that works, right? A system that works in your favor, so long as you know how to, work the system, right? There's a lot of people out there that don't, they should know, but they don't know about the itemized bill. And they don't know about the No Surprise Act of 2022. I sure as fuck didn't know about the No Surprise Act. I know about the itemized bill. But you have people out there that don't know shit. And not only do they not know shit, they also don't know how to work this system.
In 2025, is that necessarily a good excuse for people to be hell-bent
No,
and saying
and that's
things
why
that
I
are
say
incorrect?
it's an argument,
So,
but I don't
doing
know how
something-
valid the argument is, considering how it's like individual responsibility and individual knowledge concept, right?
Well, let's put it this way, Oscar. We have a society. The way that our society works, right, has an agreed upon set of rules, right? If you speed, you might get a speeding ticket. If you don't know that speeding's illegal, you still get a speeding ticket.
Right.
Because this is how things work in our society.
Correct.
Our culture over centuries has decided that this is how things should work.
Do you know what someone would argue with you about?
This is like the Chase Bank glitch, where they were like committing fraud.
You know what?
And they're like, well, somebody should have told us that fraud was illegal.
There's an individual out there somewhere where he will look at Isaac and be like, yes, you're probably right. However, how come I didn't know about this? How come no one told me about this? How come if there's a system that works for me, if there's acts that protect me, bills that
your
protect
insurance
me,
will, when it gets to the like getting dropped from your insurance because you don't re-enroll, your insurance prompts you to re-enroll.
Right. Well, I would imagine
So you just have to ignore, like, get it from your insurance company. Be like, that's fucking junk mail. Toss it.
Well, that's another thing. Is how do they know it's junk
personal
mail?
Responsibility
Like, you can only protect people who are very
stupid.
So it just goes right back to Darwinism, huh?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Unironically.
it goes right back to Darwinism and how we just how much
should
the people
society cater to people who have
no knowledge,
a lower IQ than Patrick Starr?
no knowledge. My days, it's not.
No, that's a really good question. Is how much energy should everyone else in society burden because somebody can't learn how to be an adult?
I'm already mad that they all sell guns now with lawyer text on it that say "Don't shoot yourself."
Crazy.
Like common sense, right?
I want to thank my legislator because if
I understand.
this was not on it, I would have.
I understand that it's more reasonable than it sounds that the McDonald's lawsuit, but I should be able to understand that if I order a hot coffee, that it is hot enough to burn me.
Yeah, even that story is entirely confused.
Well, that one I understand that it's more reasonable than it sounds.
But it's a good like the story is more in depth. But
they work the system.
It's a fair point. No, it's like you should be understanding that what you're getting yourself into has certain possibilities or consequences. It's called a risk assessment.
You know how on like over-the-counter medicine you can peel away the tab and there's more instructions underneath?
Yeah.
Like, do we need to have that for shit like cinnamon? Like, don't snort the
cinnamon. You're talking about the TikTok.
We need to have this?
You talking about the cinnamon challenge where people get a spoon and they just shove it in their mouths?
Like,
that's like spew
and then
everywhere.
You know they die because no one.
I think
they can't
another
breathe.
great example is the Tide Pod thing. How people would do the Tide Pod challenge. Man, dude.
That's society.
Child-proof lids weren't enough. We need adult-proof lids.
We need combination locks on the actual Tide Pods.
So I think it's a very legitimate question. How much protections do we need to give to people who are just not smart enough to protect themselves?
My answer?
I don't want to say it sounds
none.
Because it really requires a lot of effort. Because imagine that growing up in high school, now you have to take like the Army's financial training like all the time. And then you still, even when you were in the Army, how many people did you know, and I'm sure we can think of a few of the same names, that they had the financial training, they sat down, someone told them what they were doing was wrong, and they still go out and blow their paycheck on tennis shoes?
Me.
Now their family's eating ramen.
And that's a whole other thing, talking about the public education system. But so in the same spirit of telling you life hacks, I guess, that people don't understand they have the ability to do, you can actually negotiate your bill with your healthcare provider. If you go and talk to your healthcare provider's
the hospital doesn't want you to know
manager,
this, but you can just refuse to pay.
No, not those guys. Your healthcare provider's medical billing manager, whether that be like, hey, also people get into a lot of people get in trouble a lot because they don't communicate. So if you're having trouble paying a bill, talking to your health insurance is not a bad idea. But if you're talking to a healthcare provider's billing manager, they're likely going to cut you a deal because doing a large down payment and getting a massive discount on top of it saves them so much time and money than waiting for years for them to get their money back, their money. So that's something you can do. requesting, of course, like we talked about earlier, an itemized medical bill confirming that there's no errors, make sure that everything that's on that bill is something that you actually received, ask questions. Of course, we already mentioned the No Surprise Act. They cannot charge you for out-of-network services. They cannot entice you to pay for it. They just simply cannot. So if your bill's very high and you don't know why, contact somebody first. Don't let them do that to you. For poor individuals, of course, there are many state and federal sponsored medical insurance programs whereby you pay nothing or extremely small copays. I haven't really heard of a single story of state sanctioned medical insurance denying people procedures, but that's neither here or there. The idea that these health insurance companies are overcharging people for healthcare in this country is kind of laughable.
They are.
Well, I mean, there are legitimate issues in the medical industry with extreme cases of overcharging, and it's not because some people say things cost less in Europe, but that's because of government subsidies. But when you mark up the cost of a product by 5,000% in the case of like things like insulin,
Who's responsible for that?
in that case, the pharmaceutical company. But there are cases where the negotiated rates with the hospitals are higher than what they otherwise could be, so that the insurance company can sell the fact that they have negotiated rates to prospective customers.
So if you are paying for your health, you're paying your healthcare provider, your insurance rather, you pay them a monthly premium every single month. You have things that are covered. Your prices aren't going to change. You pay your monthly premiums. That's it. You may have a copay depending on your contract, but you don't pay the hospital anything unless you have extra things that are not covered under your policy.
I'm willing to argue that there's times where prices would change.
Yes, because the hospital gets to choose to do whatever the fuck they want, which is the big problem in American healthcare. They just get to decide.
Are you insinuating that Luigi should have shot a surgeon general instead?
This is a point that he's an idiot.
Should have shot a hospital administrator.
That's what he should. He should have shot a nurse. Like,
is it completely reasonable? I'm a health insurance company.
To be clear,
know that
the position
hospitals
of the whole magazine is that he shouldn't have shot anyone. But
yeah. I'm a health insurance company. I know that hospitals charge people $500 for a bag of fucking saline, something that costs them a mere matter of nickels to actually acquire. I'm going to have to adjust my premiums accordingly. That is the nature. The common denominator for all of these insurance types is how expensive the thing is in that industry and who sets it. And the automotive industry, vehicle repair, is largely the automotive repair business and industry. That's kind of what sets the prices. They fluctuate from time to time. You go back 5 years ago, things were a lot cheaper. It's all economic based and all that bullshit. Healthcare, health insurance is dictated by people who provide the service, and that is hospitals, who get to do whatever the fuck they want. This is kind of like very much like crosses the T's and dot the I's when you see that the profit margins for these industries, for health insurance industries, is a matter of 3.4 to 3.3% annually. This is in 2023. This is a mid-year report. And another report, healthcare plans industries have an average net profit margin of minus 16%, while their gross profit margin is 20%. So sure, their gross, which is before taxes and expenses, i.e. before having to pay hospitals, is 20%. But after they have to actually pay the hospitals and pay their bills, it's negative 16%. So the issue is not the insurance companies. We need to be looking at the hospitals who are now, it's like anytime Bethesda releases a game and then Cyberpunk releases a game when it's heckled by its fucking community, release the game now, release the game now. Hey guys, it's not ready. We don't fucking care. Release it. And they do, and it's buggy, and they go, everyone loses their shit.
I don't think that was the community's fault. I think it was the publisher's fault.
It was that everyone loses their shit, and Bethesda's over here where there hasn't been like there hasn't been a solid release ever, and every game is buggy as hell, and they just get to smile in the background.
Also, like,
hospitals,
fairly certain Bethesda did not create Cyberpunk.
Hospitals, no, it was
CD
another
Projekt
company.
Red.
Yes, a comparison. You got hung up on Bethesda,
and it was their publisher, because the overall gaming community doesn't have any sway as to when things get released, because they're not
who set the prices for these things are smiling in the background, while the insurance companies right now are being the ones blamed at the current situation in the United States.
That's probably fair. I think we've talked through this
No,
as much as
there's
we
more.
need to.
There's more.
Unless he has a spiel to get
I
out.
want
There
him
is
to get
more.
the spiel out because I'm
There's
ready. I'm
more.
ready. I'm ready when
Why
he
is what do you think is so wrong with the health insurance? Sorry, no. Healthcare system in the United States.
I think you bring up valid points throughout and through in and throughout. I do agree that it probably is more than likely. Well, not probably or more than likely. It's for certain probably the hospital bills. I mean, those things they're jacked up, and we both already discussed itemized bills and shit like that. But I still disagree, and I believe that at the end of the day, these insurance companies, whether there is an effective system on how to use them or not, at the end of the day, these are still parasitic businessmen that are, at the end of the day, trying to make the most money they can. They will botch prices, and they will
Not
turn
parasitic.
down claims from individuals who need, these medical costs covered, or they need medical procedures done.
Uh,
And these insurance companies, the first thing they look out
just
for is
like
themselves and their company rather than the people.
interjection. I would love to see all these people who had claim denials, because this is another aspect of these things that we're not accepting. I will love to see every one of those people's those claims, what they were asking for. Also, I would like to see the contract they signed and see what's actually covered on their healthcare insurance, because that's something we're not talking about. Our immediate question is like, well, which is the appropriate question. Well, is it covered on your health insurance policy that you signed up for? Because you know what happens a lot in my industry? People come in, they want to have something done to their vehicle, and guess what? I contact their insurance and they don't have coverage for it. They have liability.
I will say, whose fault is it? Is it the hospital's fault for charging too much, or is it Blue Cross and Blue Shield's fault for deciding that a surgery only takes a certain amount of time and they're not going to cover any sort of anesthesia after a certain time mark is hit?
Yeah, in those more specific situations, that's horseshit.
That is legitimate.
That's horseshit.
But that's the kind of thing that insurance companies are doing, where it's like, well, technically this is necessary, and the doctor says it's necessary, and their coverage says it's necessary, but we're going to try to weasel our way out of it.
And in those specific cases, then yes, I would agree that that's the insurance company.
United Healthcare.
Well, no, that's not
known for.
That's not what everyone's saying. It's just the ambiguous, hypothetical situation of invoking people who got their claims denied without actually pulling up an actual story, an actual person, and we have zero information about what that person's coverage was. And so these are the things. These are information that you need to actually ascertain whether or not all these companies are truly being evil. We have all these people saying, like, my claim was denied, and they probably just have basic fucking dental, basic fucking vision, and that's it.
I'm sure there is, like, man, I don't even know. I'm sure there's a site or somewhere where people actually show these things. Like, there has to be, right?
I doubt it, because that takes work and effort. It's far easier for people to be like, look at me, woe is me. I wasn't being an adult big boy. Of course, in those cases where an insurance company is being a shady cunt, I absolutely support the patient. I absolutely support the patient, but I'm not in the business of just taking hypotheticals and having that sum up the entire country's medical, okay? Because it's not true. If the United States healthcare system is so fucking bad, why is it that United States is the number one country for medical tourism? Why is that?
I think it's important to state that even if our medical system is flawed, which you state it's not, but even if it is, right?
It's flawed in some parts.
I like to think that what Luigi did was not just because he was trying to send a message to the medical insurance companies. I'm pretty sure that was not the message. The message was to all companies who are million-dollar enterprises ran by these corrupt blue-collared motherfuckers, essentially, who only care about themselves. They could care less about the rest of the American people, the working class people.
We just showed that the average profit margins for these companies is negative. That means they're not being as greedy as you think.
That's not actually, that's an assumption.
How?
They could be.
How's that an assumption?
So if their profit margins are bad, that doesn't mean that they're not denying claims. It just means that they could. It just means that their profit margins are bad, right?
Means
so
that
they
the
could
money
be
that
like
they're taking
going
in,
down to brass tacks. We got to stop paying for shit, right? But it doesn't mean that. It doesn't. You can't infer anything from the fact that their profit margins
Walker,
are low.
just so we're clear, you're insinuating that, dude. So just because their profit margins are negative You're saying that they're still making money.
No, actually,
That's not what I
that
said.
means
I
at
said that
all.
you can't infer anything
I mean,
about their
you
business practices.
absolutely can infer. It just means that they're not taking in as much money.
So you can't
as
say
they're
because their
bringing in.
profit margins are in the negative, they haven't decided to stop paying for healthcare, trying to
No.
weasel their way
I'm not
around their
saying that at
contracts.
all. What I said is that they're not being as greedy as everyone's thinking that they are. If they're averaging a negative 16% profit margin,
It's possible for them to try to be greedy and also have a negative.
maybe, but
This
that
is
sounds
true.
more of like an assumption
Business could
rather
be
than
bad.
going off of data.
I'm saying that what you are getting data from and drawing a conclusion from, your conclusion is not factual. It is an assumption.
It's a presumption.
I mean, to be fair, you're also making an assumption, though.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that if the data is that they have bad profit margins, that doesn't mean anything about their business practices being greedy or not greedy.
If the
But
instances that these people are getting denied coverage,
Like they're
that
not
they
doing
have covered,
charity. They have
that's
they have
bad.
something called a fiduciary responsibility to make money for the shareholders, right? So if they're in the negatives, then that doesn't mean that, oh, it's because out of the goodness of their heart they're providing charity and approving claims willy-nilly. That's not what that means. It just means that business is bad for them for a number of reasons that might include people deciding to stop using them because of past claim denials. It doesn't, like, there's plenty of reasons why they could have a negative profit margin, and assuming that the reason why they have a negative profit margin is because they just approve claims willy-nilly, it doesn't make any sense. It is possible for them to deny everything in an effort to save money and still have a negative profit margin.
What is their major expenditure as an insurance company?
I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Salary.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't
and
imagine.
claims.
Yeah, salary and claims, definitely for sure. But I was trying to think of like other shit too, because I feel like there has to be
Salary
more.
and claims.
Well, I mean,
if you're an
Walker
Pay a
insurance
lot of
said-
money in
company,
law
that's
school.
about
Walker
it.
said shareholders. I mean, they got to pay somebody to earn their keep to be able to run a company.
Shareholders don't get paid salaries, though.
They get paid
They get paid
a
dispersions.
portion of the profit of that year.
They get paid
Do
dispersions.
we know the percentage of that profit?
No,
I mean, you can look up the earnings per share,
and it's typically
What's the
and
earnings
you can
per
probably
share?
find. You could probably find
I'm
who
gonna look up
owns
the
and it's
earnings
also
per
majority
share.
of their
it's
of
also
the
more
shares.
it's more complicated because it also depends on how they structured their
That
organization.
yeah. Okay, I'm
Because
just
they
gonna look up this for just.
They
for
still
sh-
have a legal responsibility, basically, to make money for the shareholders.
correct. Yeah.
So medical expenses or procedures in the United States are often more expensive than in other countries. For example, a hip replacement may cost between $30,000 and $40,000 in the United States compared to $10,000 to $15,000 in other countries like India or Thailand. However, the quality of care and access to advanced technologies can justify the higher cost for some patients who are looking at medical tourism. And that is why the United States remains the number one destination for medical tourism.
I actually have it, by the way, if you want to hear it.
There are other things. So, United States is a dominant country. So, accounting, in 2017 alone, the United States actually brought in $4 billion US dollars, which accounts for about 36% of the global medical tourism. Actually, United States citizens are also pretty much the number one sort of destination with outbound medical tourism traffic. 20% of global medical tourism outbound traffic comes from the United States. So actually what ended up happening is in 2017, United States citizens left with 2.3 billion US dollars. However, other people from other nations brought in 4 billion. So it was actually a net positive for the United States economy. Why is it so popular? Why do people want to come here? Because we are the leaders in medical technology, patient care, fucking triage, patient rights. We are the leaders. We are also the leaders in a lot of incredible surgeries that we're able to do, which is fucking mind-boggling when you think about it. We are the leaders in this. That's why people are flocking to the country. And what does that typically mean? Granted, hospitals, this is not me and the whole magazine justifying your bullshit business plan where you can be an emergency service and just make your prices willy-nilly. We're gonna digress. I'm gonna
real
prescribe
quick,
my fixes.
I would say that you should probably just Google stories about specifically maybe United Healthcare's claim denials. Like there's an article on ProPublica where United Healthcare You can look up
I thought they
ProPublica
already
and United
released a
Healthcare.
percentage list
There's
for denials.
been several class action lawsuits about this where it's been found that United Healthcare will do things like hide medical reports and just make shit up to say it's not medically necessary. Because part of the coverage is basically if it's medically necessary, we'll pay for it. The thing is, they get something, the doctor says it's medically necessary, insurance says it's not. There are specific examples of this that have
Perfect.
made the news specifically recently because of current events.
Perfect.
I would say you should look into that. There are definitely issues with some of these companies, probably specifically United Healthcare.
Do you think these issues are similar in like God? I hope not, but like in TRICARE.
So TRICARE's a little different because TRICARE has to pay for everything for most of its clients because they're contracted by the government to do so. So TRICARE is military health insurance. And for the most part, if you're in TRICARE, you're getting coverage in a military facility, which is paid for by the taxpayer.
God, I loved TRICARE.
It is practically socialized medicine, but for a very small percentage of the population.
TRICARE
less
was
than
fire.
1%.
TRICARE
I think it's less
was
than
awesome.
like
So
a hundredth
we
or a
will.
tenth of a percent.
I'm going to digress with this. We're going to digress with this episode with my final prescriptions for how we can easily fix or do the starting fixes for the United States healthcare. Right, hospitals that are for profit or otherwise, any hospital can only make a 10% profit margin on any expendable or single use item.
I think if we get into price controls, we get into dangerous territories where people who aren't doctors and don't know the industry costs of things are going to decide that things shouldn't
easy.
cost
You can look it
a
up.
certain amount.
My
the average
closing
person can
statements.
look up how
I'm
much
sure
these
it's
cost.
not as easy as you think it is.
It probably
is.
isn't.
It
I
is.
agree. It's
It
probably
is.
not
It's
as
like-
easy.
This is going to be like where Cuba decided doctors should only be paid as much as cab drivers, and then their economy
Okay,
collapsed.
let's not go this far. Hold on.
Hospitals should only be placing the value on the people who work there. Doctors, nurses, etc. That is where the value should be coming from. That's where they should be getting their money. That's where the charges should be mostly for. I'm sorry, but $500 for a bag of saline is bullshit. I much more
It is
value the
bullshit.
skills of
It's
the
100%
person
bullshit.
who is putting that saline into me. That's where I
But
value them.
why does the saline cost $500?
Because the hospital just gets to choose their prices.
That's a problem.
You can easily look up these
You know what?
companies that they
I
get their
would-
supplies from.
I would feel more bad for the insurance
And then
companies.
on wholesale, it comes out to about a quarter.
I would actually, like, genuinely, this is like an opinionated statement. I would feel bad for health insurance companies because of the concept that they have to actually cover these costs that are so absurd. I would.
It's kind of bullshit.
I
if
could
you ask me.
I could understand why they would want to weasel and parasite and like be
Oh yeah,
shady.
no, this cat that you're gonna get a CAT scan. Yeah, it's so expensive because it's a very expensive machine. It's been paying off in the first 6 months.
I can
that
almost
they got it.
understand why they're being shady. Shady's bad, but at
There's
the end of the
another-
day, so
There's another issue where you might pass a law that says they're not allowed to overcharge for the items. But how often have you looked at a hospital bill and you get charged for the doctor's time or the nursing staff's time?
we just talked about this. Like, I mean, most people don't even know the itemized bill is a thing. Like, they don't even know about No Surprise Act of 22.
Regardless of whether or not you know about the itemized bill, I will tell you that for the most part, when you look at a bill from a hospital, they charge you for items that were used, but it's also semi-rare to see like a bill that says, hey, this is the time that you had to pay this doctor $600 an hour to stand at your bedside and explain things to you.
Regardless of what we're recruiting right now,
The
this is a
doctor's
clip you should
salary-
make, by the way.
The doctor's salary, they're basically selling these things at a huge markup, which isn't necessarily a good thing. But you might not even pay less if
It's not a good
in
thing.
Brandon's universe, because the doctors are still going to make the same amount of money. They have to pay them somehow. You're just now going to get charged, like they're going to give you, oh, this is how many hours the doctor and nursing staff had to work for you. Here's $30,000 of debt.
But it's absurd. It's absurd.
When I went to a primary care appointment over here at just down the road from me.
Yeah, the VA one.
They still send you a bill. It was about $390
Jesus. For what?
Okay.
for your primary care visit.
What did you do? Did you
Primary
bend
care
over and
visit.
cough? Like, what did you do?
He asked what I wanted and what I needed, and asked about checkup, what was wrong, what symptoms, discussing possible treatment plans or things like that.
And that cost $390.
For my flight physical,
It costed the VA $390 something.
for my flight physical, I walk in, cost me $200.
That's fucking
I don't
crazy.
consume any item. Why is it crazy? That doctor went to medical school, had a career, input possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars into his
That's
career
his
to
fucking
become a
decision.
doctor.
No. This is why it's better than being charged $50 to sign on
So
a piece of paper to check in for your appointment. Hospitals just get to charge you for inanimate objects hundreds of dollars when the value should be on the individual's experience and expertise in treating you.
I mean, I would like to have the real value of items that you consume as well as being able to see that you're paying the doctor. I know for some reason Oscar is under the impression that the doctor should be a free government wage slave
I
and
wish.
shouldn't
I wish, but the
you
world
shouldn't
can't be
have to pay the
perfect.
doctor.
The world can't be
So
perfect.
when you said it's his decision to go to medical school, you're absolutely right. But the thing is, medical school is expensive,
And that's
and
why he
now
gets to reap
it
the
is your
benefits.
decision. It is your decision to pay for a doctor. If you can't pay for a doctor, because he has to recoup his losses, and he's also in it's the free market, right? He is in a in-demand position. He can charge
I'll
an
tell you
amount
what.
that he thinks people can pay, but is also lucrative to
I'll
him.
tell you
Like
what. I'll
And
you
fucking
can just
compromise.
go to another doctor.
And from what I just said earlier, you should be rooting for that because
I'll compromise.
you
I'll
didn't
compromise.
like paying $500 for saline,
I will
but you
compromise.
also don't like paying for an actual
I
real human being's
will
expertise.
compromise. I personally think I should not have to pay for some pretentious rich asshole to take care of me. However,
How
I
many
agree
doctors
with
have you met?
every single. Okay, look.
So you think that you should
The
just be
fuck?
treated for free?
Hear me out. Hear
Do
me
you think
out.
you have a right
Every
Hear
to
me
their
doctor
out.
labor?
I've ever had has been so chill and non-pretentious.
You know, he is from Alabama.
Here-
Maybe he is pro-slavery.
Whoa. Hear me out. I still agree with Brandon in the sense that you should, obviously, like, these people should be paid based off experience, knowledge, and like the actual quality of care of the person given the profession, right? So, like, yes, I agree. Like, I'm not saying that I shouldn't pay for medical care, right? I'm not saying doctors should not be paid. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that quality definitely should be taken into consideration. Like, I mean, if your flight physical was fucking $200, which to me is a lot, right? That's a lot of fucking money for a physical. But if this guy was just like, oh, he was good, he was fucking good. I mean, why else would he be hired to perform physicals for people who are trying to fly? Like, I mean, he obviously had to be experienced in some knowledge, right?
It's a flight surgeon.
That's understandable.
He's an AME.
It was around the 1990s where the sort of business model or for doctors how they got their money, it was before before it was salary, it was fee for service, where you would go in and you would pay the doctor for their time.
Well, you'd also probably pay for items consumed,
Yes.
just like any kind
You
of
would-
contract.
you
work.
would be
You
the
pay for
doctor-
materials and you pay for labor.
In order to get for the doctor to get his money or her money, shut the fuck up. For the doctor to get his
Bruh.
money, right?
There
from
are
the
female
hospital.
doctors.
Yeah,
From
I
the
know.
hospital.
I don't know why he said it like that.
That's how they got paid. So it was
Fact-
like on a service basis.
I didn't see a male doctor until I joined the army because growing up, all the pediatricians were female.
So Oscar, who knows? It actually might still work. It might still work if we did it in that system. If we did it in that system, doctors might take a pay cut, but if we went back to fee for service, doctors would still, I think, likely get away with the same amount of money. Because how many patients are doctors seeing a day, really?
That's what I was about to ask you. If that's a system that could genuinely work today in this current economy, in this current society, would fee for service just be better off?
It would
You
further
could do it instead of doing a 5,000% markup on things.
Yeah.
The issue
Like
is
the saline bag.
remember when you go into the hospital, they have to pay everyone inside. They have to pay the security, the janitorial staff, the nursing staff, the finance and billing people, any kind of hospital administration. They have to pay all of the doctors. Everyone that you see inside working has to get paid. So this hospital could cost millions of dollars just in labor to keep open every single day.
I mean, maybe that's what we need to do. God damn it, I don't know.
I mean, it would definitely push harder for the idea of the value on the expertise and ability. That's for sure.
Yeah,
That's
the
true.
issue,
You're 100% right.
hospitals will only be able to get so cheap as long
Mhm.
as the wages that the people inside make are accepted already at the level. Like if you don't want to, you're like, oh, you're a neurosurgeon who makes $1,000 an hour. Screw that. You get to make $30 an hour.
I don't know.
Like if you're not going to cut wages for
And it isn't
high.
and it isn't like they just had to go to school. They also it's the accreditation
Like I
system.
said earlier, they have a whole
Yeah.
career.
The whole
That is-
accreditation system is also why the United States is so popular for foreigners to come and get medical treatment for things, because the standards are so strict, some of the strictest in the world.
Yeah.
People oftentimes will leave the United States to go to another country for cosmetic surgeries,
Like
for vanity
Mexico,
surgeries,
like Mexico,
Because it's
bro.
way
because it's
cheaper.
way cheaper, but you buy what you get. You
Yeah,
get what you pay for.
Yeah,
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, the Mexicans.
And so
Man, I love you people.
if more Americans were actually sit and think about it, though, is we are the leaders in medical technology, in quality of care, everything like that. There is a price tag to that, but we
Yeah.
need to be focusing more on the people who are setting these prices and causing the whole industry to change, which are those hospitals, which are able to just do whatever the fuck they want.
I actually
Yeah, I think
have
we've
something that
talked through
We've
this
beaten the
pretty
Oh,
well.
that was my digression there.
Leave-
Anyway, I've been Brandon. Don't forget to check out the website for awesome things. Check out the store. Check out Nathan, who is not here's projects on YouTube. They're only exclusively on YouTube. But
Not only has he been Brandon, he will also be Brandon next
I
time.
will also be Brandon next time, until I am not.